Good morning. Monday the 5th of June, and there are the skies that we associate with Scotland. And it's a grey day and it's very cool, but they have told us, the app obviously has told us that the sun will come out this afternoon around 3 o'clock or something. So here is a monument. It's an historical monument called Sueno's Stone, and wanted to show you this today. Colin thought, why not walk from Forres back home to Kinloss? So there we go, and he said it'd be nice for people to see a bit of our historical heritage. Historical history, that's the same thing, isn't it? So Sueno's Stone stands over 6 meters high and Scotland's tallest surviving cross slab, one of the most richly carved examples of Pictish art in Scotland. And the name was invented in the 18th century when the stone was discovered buried in the ground. It has no bearing on the origin of the monument, the name that is. Only the stone itself and its location can give any hint of why and when it was created and on whose orders. So there you go. The Picts were descendants of native-born Iron Age tribes. They occupied the lands north of the Forth Clyde estuaries from the 3rd century AD. And there's some of examples of Pictish art that are on the stone. Right, and so here we go. Monday the 5th of June, the year is marching on. We have a sense we're in summertime, which is really nice, despite what you can see up there. And it's just we've had some lovely, really warm days, and that's what we look forward to every year. And because it comes once a year and doesn't last an extraordinarily long period of time, we get to be delighted by it. It's not the norm, it's not standard. We find delight in each season, actually, which is great. I like 4 distinct seasons, and whilst winter itself might be a time that people find quite difficult, many people do, there are a lot of people who love winter, and I don't mind winter so long as my home is warm. This is the pedestrian bridge over the A96, the large road, which goes all the way from Inverness to Aberdeen. And it's just a really busy road, and it carries a lot of traffic. Certain times of the day it can be reasonably congested, but nothing like big cities, really, to be honest. And for the most part, we're very fortunate that traffic tends to flow, albeit not necessarily as fast as some people would appreciate, because I have to admit, I don't understand why, if it's a 60 mile per hour zone, somebody wants to travel 40. And I think it just creates opportunities for people to become very frustrated. There are roads where you can just go 40 and pootle along, but honestly, if you see cars lining up behind you, the decent thing is to just pull over and let them overtake. It's okay to go out for a little pootle, but not to create all the frustration behind you. A lot of bad energy coming from that kind of stuff. And anyway, so here is another view of our town of Forres, and we live in Kinloss, which is almost like a suburb of Forres, and there across there is the Findhorn Bay. Now, holding my hand up like this, the wind has quite a bite to it, and I wish I'd brought my gloves. Hopefully as I walk my blood will heat up really nicely and my right hand will warm up. Yeah, so yesterday we had a magnificent day. When I say magnificent day, okay, it started off that colour, but what we did have was we had a booking for lunch at Bootleggers Bothy, which is in Hopeman, probably about, I don't know, it's at 6 to 8, somewhere between 6 to 8 miles from where we are, and I think it's about 8 miles. Anyway, Bootleggers Bothy, the first time we went to Bootleggers Bothy, it was in just a little, like a trailer thing, where they were like a van, and they just developed, and now they have this amazing restaurant, and the food is exceptional. It's I suppose you could call it a sort of, it's a bistro anyway. I was going to say it's a pub, but it's not. It's a bistro, and the food is cooked to very high quality. Yesterday, Colin had half a rotisserie chicken, and I don't think I've tasted such a good roast chicken in an awfully long time. So the view is gorgeous. You look straight out over the sea. The venue yesterday had somebody playing live music, and he was playing popular songs and kind of Scottish music, but popular Scottish music on a guitar, not the bagpipes, and tunes that everybody knew. So we're all sitting at tables and people are singing away and stuff like that. I think we were probably the ones who were singing away, and we're a bit concerned that we might be driving people off when a table next to us got up and moved, but they just moved to another position so they had a better view of the sea. Yeah, isn't it gorgeous over there? Even though the sky is this colour, look at the colour of the fields. Obviously the lovely lilting song of the crow, and all feels very, very well. This is a long walk for me, I suppose. Certainly a minimum of 3 miles, so we'll see how it goes. I think I've done this before, it's just not this route, and it's all semi-downhill. It's an incline going down, which is much easier for me. I don't do up. I can do flat very well, and we'll see how this goes. So we started off today by, we have breakfast every morning, and we watched a little clip called On the Y-Files on YouTube. There's a guy who looks into different things, and he seeks to debunk conspiracy theories, and he does all sorts of really interesting stuff. And this one was on the hypothesis of the missing, something about a missing 300 years. I found it really, really interesting, because what he did bring up was how history can be manipulated, and although he feels like he's debunked the theory, there's enough there with just a little question mark left behind that you can't be 100% certain that there wasn't something more to it. And the theorists of the theory, the founders of it or whatever, are still convinced that they are right. And this is the one thing, we were having this conversation even last night, I think, Colin, my mom and myself, about how unless it is your self-evident reality, as in I am walking on this asphalt, as you can see my feet there, and there's the grasses on the left and a field, etc. This is reality for me right now. This is my perceptual, lived reality. Blue cars just driven past, etc. But There's no way that I can be absolutely certain of anything that somebody else tells me about something anywhere else in the world or at any other time, because there is extraordinarily huge evidence to show that much of what we are told and shown is fabricated. During different disasters, etc., that happen, whether it be wars or hurricanes or what have you, you can actually see the same, what they call crisis actors, being used. And that happened a lot during the lockdowns. These lockdowns that happened over the last few years, 3 years, 2 to 3 years anyway. And we also know, and it was shown, that crisis actors were being used in hospital situations, that people were acting in beds sick. Now that might be very, very offensive to some people, because there are people who had very sick relatives, loved ones, and people who were in hospital. But it was also shown that despite the fact that there were people who did suffer greatly, in order to publicize things, there was also a case where crisis actors were used. And that to me is anathema. Honestly, I just think that that's awful. I'm not saying we should see see people suffering, although it seems to me unusual that they would show that quite happily when, for instance, like the Iraq War, when we had 24/7 coverage of an illegitimate war, where now so many people have died as a consequence of that. But I remember sitting there watching the television when the first footage of Shock and Awe was televised. So we were allowed to watch that. So, I don't know. There's so much about what comes through the television screen that you've really got to wonder if you can trust any of it. And my sense is that you really can't. There's these deep fakes that are going around now. And for people who don't know what that is, it's where they can honestly superimpose, say, a celebrity's face onto I suppose somebody acting something out. And it really looks like that person. And I noticed this happening on the reels on Facebook, ages ago, where people like Tom Cruise, etc., celebrities, were being filmed in silly, strange situations and they were saying things that just didn't make sense, that they would allow themselves to be captured in that way. And it turns out that these are deep fakes and they look absolutely real. So I just think, we all just need to be really, really rooted in ourselves and the present time, because so much can happen inside a person if they allow themselves to get caught up in these unrealities or these things that we think are real but we have no way of proving one way or the other. You really don't know if that was Tom Cruise who said that. I can't even remember the last one. It was maybe talking about the Burj Khalifa, or maybe, I don't know, was that real? Was that not real? I think there was one where he was talking about boiling an egg or something. Silly little things. So that means that when you see anything on TV, for me it's just got a big question mark. It's better just to watch fiction, because at least you know it. But watching something that you suppose is true, that has the power to manipulate your thinking, your emotions and your behaviors, it's just not safe. So stay away from it as far as I'm concerned. We watched a little clip from some BBC Casualty episode and realized, we don't have the TV license. We gave that up 3 years ago. sick to death of the propaganda that was coming out of BBC at the time. Not just BBC, all of them, but they're the ones you pay for. And absolutely sickened that people were becoming so manipulated and fearful because of what was being reported, and which was at times proven to be totally erroneous. And I remember thinking, what is going on? They never ever publish the statistics of other diseases, etc., in the way they're doing this. And of course it was shown after time that the way the reporting was done was completely ridiculous, which inflated numbers horrifically, which increased massive fear, which increased huge compliance with, behaviors that were harmful and not helpful. And of course all of this has come out because there was a certain section of the military establishment which deals with psychological operations, and it's been shown and proven that they were the ones who were pretty much designing and pushing things. And the world was so horribly manipulated. And I think what it did as well is it showed how easily we can fall prey to this manipulation through, propaganda and fakery. So I think for Colin and I, we choose to deal with what we can see and what have you, and we hope that most people will do that. Perhaps because most people, I don't know how many people on the planet watch live television and the news stations, etc., which I would say don't buy the newspapers, don't watch the news. Just open your eyes every day, be grateful for what's in your day, go about doing good, look after yourself, your home, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your community, your environment. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you, and love one another. I think if we manage to do that, we'll be living well. And hopefully, if nothing else, people have learned something of that. I see there's an invitation to share your story of your experience of the last 3 years, what they're calling the COVID era. And somebody sent me that, and the suggested invitation to share my experience of this, because saying that stories matter. And I'm not certain. I think yes, in a live group where we all can talk and witness without judgment or anybody else, without argument either, because each of our experiences is legitimate and valid, the emotions that it caused, etc., and subsequently the anger that is being expressed by people who've been injured, damaged, suffered loss, etc. All of it legitimate and valid. We should maybe do those more and more. In South Africa, once it had changed from, apartheid South Africa, and Nelson Mandela was released, and South Africa had its elections when the ANC was elected into power. There was a thing called the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Now, there would be arguments on both sides as to whether that was effective or not, or run properly, etc., etc. But I thought reflecting back now, at the time it didn't really impact me, but reflecting back now, I think a hugely useful thing to do, and maybe a truth and reconciliation committee would do well to be run in this country post. Are we post-COVID era, or are we still living COVID era? I think we're still living in it because there's still so much untold damage. And then, of course, there is some damage of that has become apparent due to Brexit. That being said, it could have been done a lot better, etc., etc. So yeah, this country is experiencing quite a lot of turmoil, and I think I'm putting that very lightly. But the turmoil is in what we are recognizing as the dismantling almost of the National Health Service and services as we know it. Even yesterday, talking to somebody who's in the forces, was explaining how there are a lot of changes there, and that there are shortages of personnel in certain areas, which I found extraordinary. But this is the world that we now exist in, and so each day gives us the opportunity to respond to it in a way that is helpful, hopeful, and heart-filled. Or for some people it'll be a world filled with fear, panic, pain, suffering. And to those people, for those people, might those of us who are on the other side of that be kind, compassionate, loving, and helpful. Yeah. If your fellow man needs a helping hand, you offer it. Stop waiting for government or social services or somebody else to do the little things, because we can all do the little things. I agree, there are big things that should be done by those with a statutory duty of care. But each of us can do the little things and make a massive difference in people's lives. So I would like to encourage us all to keep our eyes and hearts wide open and spot where another human being needs some kindness, and just step in and do it. One of the things I realize is that we always, it's you ask somebody who may be in shock following a bereavement, ask me if there's anything you need. I'm willing to help, just ask. But the person actually doesn't have the capacity to process enough to the point of working out what would be really helpful. And I have heard over years that it's actually much better just to do something. So just make the meal and drop it off. Just knock on the door and offer to come in and hoover, or put the laundry on, or take a person out for a walk or out for a coffee. Just sit sometimes. It's nice just to be. Oh well, anyway, it's been noisy. I must admit then I'm not really enjoying this route because of the traffic. I like to be in places where there's less traffic. So I'm going to say goodbye, send love and warmth, my hand's still cold, and encouragement and gratitude to each and every one who takes time to walk along with me. And when it's Colin or my mom, walk along with us. Lots of love. Thanks to everybody who posted on Facebook following our birthday lunch for Colin yesterday, and my mom who had her head shaved just the other day. It's great that we know that we have people who we connect with all over the world. It's so special. It's one of the great things that technology has provided. And there are many, many things that we have due to technology. I know people decry it, but I'm just going to express gratitude. Lots of love, everyone. Oh, the noise. Bye.